We often look at history through the lens of great kings and bloody battles. But what if the most significant revolution in human history wasn't fought with swords, but with ledgers and ink? This video was meticulously crafted using advanced AI to bring you a narrative experience that blends historical depth with a cinematic perspective. Before we dive into the machine that was 17th century Amsterdam, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community of curious minds as we decode the hidden systems of our world. In the early 1600s, the world was changing, yet most of Europe was still trapped in the echoes of the Middle Ages. Power was something you inherited. It was something displayed through golden crowns and vast, sprawling estates. But in a small, marshy corner of the Low Countries, a new kind of power was being coded into existence. Amsterdam did not rise because a king commanded it. It rose because it became an operating system for the planet.
Finest silks from the east, right here.
While the rest of the world was obsessed with the symbolism of the throne, Amsterdam was obsessed with the mechanics of coordination. It was a city that understood, perhaps for the first time in history, that information could outrun an army and that capital, when concentrated and directed, could reshape the very geography of the earth. This wasn't just a city, it was a mechanism. The Dutch didn't just trade, they engineered a reality where peace was more profitable than war, and where the quiet scratch of a clerk's quill was louder than the roar of a cannon. This was the birth of the modern global city, a place where power was procedural, recorded, and relentless. If you were to stand in the center of Dam Square in 1650, you wouldn't see the flamboyant displays of wealth typical of Paris or Rome. Instead, you would see the administrative nerve center of a global empire. The town hall, now the royal palace, stood not as a monument to a person, but as a monument to function. Within its stone walls, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and the quiet murmur of bureaucracy. This was where the chaotic energy of the sea was tamed into the orderly lines of a ledger. Clerks, whose names history has largely forgotten, sat at heavy oak desks, documenting every dispute, every cargo manifest, and every international contract. In Amsterdam, governance wasn't something that happened to the people. It was inseparable from their daily work. The law wasn't a set of decrees from on high. It was the infrastructure that allowed commerce to flow without interruption. This was bureaucratic authority at its most potent, silent, continuous, and terrifyingly efficient. It created a level of trust and predictability that the world had never seen, turning a muddy square into the most important coordinate on the global map. To understand the soul of this city, you have to look at the water. The Canal Ring, that iconic Grachtengordel, was never intended to be a postcard-perfect tourist attraction. It was a massive, high-stakes engineering project designed to manage the impossible. The Dutch were negotiating their very existence with the North Sea, and the canals were the terms of that negotiation. These waterways were logistical arteries, designed to move goods with a precision that would make a modern warehouse manager envious. The houses that lined them were narrow and vertical, not because of a stylistic trend, but because of a utilitarian tax code and the need for efficiency. Every crane atop a gabled roof was a tool, every cellar was a storage unit. The city was built to be handled, to be used, and to be maintained. The beauty of the canals is a byproduct of their utility, a reminder that when humans organize their environment with absolute clarity of purpose, they create something that transcends time. It was a triumph of human infrastructure over the chaos of nature, a grid laid over the water that whispered of order and control. But the true genius of Amsterdam lay in its ability to turn the physical into the abstract. In 1602, the world changed forever with the birth of the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. For the first time, ownership was detached from physical presence. You didn't need to see the ship, or touch the spices, or smell the salt air to own a piece of the journey. Risk, once a terrifying specter that could ruin a family, became a tradable commodity. This was the moment capitalism learned to dream. Information became the most valuable currency, circulating through the exchange in a flurry of observation and rumor. The exchange was a place where uncertainty was priced and futures were gambled upon. It introduced a level of sophistication to human interaction that we still struggle to master today. By allowing people to share in the maybe, Amsterdam unlocked a fountain of capital that could fund expeditions to the other side of the globe. It was a psychological breakthrough as much as a financial one, the realization that wealth could be built on the collective belief in a future result. However, for all its abstraction, the city remained tethered to the grit of the earth at the port. This was where the operating system met the hardware of the world. At the harbor, the quiet atmosphere of the counting house was replaced by the roar of labor. This was the physical lung of the city, inhaling goods from every corner of the known world, silks from China, spices from the East Indies, timber from the Baltics, and exhaling them back out into the veins of Europe. The port was a place of iron-fisted discipline, where time was measured in the turning of the tide and the speed of a crane. Here, wealth was not a static thing to be hoarded, it was a flow. The goods didn't stay, they were measured, taxed, and redistributed. This constant circulation connected Amsterdam to a global production network, making it the central hub of a planet that was rapidly shrinking. It was a reminder that even the most sophisticated financial system relies on the muscles of the men who heave the crates and the durability of the wood that holds the hull. Hidden behind modest, unassuming facades were the headquarters of the VOC, the Dutch East India Company. This was the world's first true corporation, and it operated with a cold, calculated logic that redefined power. Inside these buildings, the world was mapped not by explorers, but by shareholders. Ledgers and correspondence translated the violence of colonial expansion and the immense profits of the spice trade into neat columns of numbers. Decisions made in a quiet room in Amsterdam would ripple across oceans, deciding the fate of nations and the lives of millions. This was the birth of corporate power, private, organized, and global. It was a power that didn't need a crown because it owned the ships that carried the crown's gold. The VOC was a state within a state, a machine designed for one thing, the maximization of return. It proved that a well-organized company could exert more influence than many empires, setting a precedent for the global corporate landscape we inhabit today. Yet every machine has its foundation, and for Amsterdam that foundation was the Jordaan. Located to the west of the Grand Canals, this was the district of the laborers, the craftsmen, and the refugees. If the Canal Ring was the city's brain, the Jordaan was its hands. Life here was public, repetitive, and dictated by the harsh realities of necessity. The people of the Jordaan were the cogs that allowed the Amsterdam mechanism to turn. They built the ships, sewed the sails, and baked the bread. They lived in the shadow of the wealth they created, receiving only a fraction of the reward, yet their routines formed the essential human infrastructure of the city. Their resilience and their labor were the quiet energy source beneath Amsterdam's prosperity. To look at the history of this city without acknowledging the Jordaan is to look at a clock without seeing the springs and gears that make it tick. It was a place of vibrant struggle, a reminder that every great system is built on the backs of those who keep it running day after day. Order in Amsterdam was maintained not just through law, but through a pervasive sense of surveillance and faith. The Montalbaantoren and other watchtowers weren't just for defense, they were for monitoring. They were the eyes of the city, watching the flow of traffic and the movement of goods. This physical surveillance was mirrored by an internal one, the restrained, disciplined culture of Calvinism. The Westerkerk, with its towering spire, didn't dominate the city with the theatricality of a Catholic cathedral. Instead, it served as a spiritual clock, reminding the citizens of their responsibilities, their work ethic, and their duty to the community. Religion in Amsterdam didn't compete with the civic system, it reinforced it. It provided the moral framework that made the bureaucracy possible, valuing discipline, sobriety, and the sanctity of the contract. It was a culture where your word was your bond, not necessarily because of a love for neighbor, but because the system required honesty to function.
Sail with the tide. Meet me at dawn.
As the sun set and the ledgers were closed, the city's energy shifted to the taverns. These were the informal institutions where the operating system backed up its data. In the dim light of oil lamps, over mugs of beer and pipes of tobacco, the news of the day was processed. Here, the formal world of contracts met the informal world of oral tradition. Information moved through conversation, measured, contained, and often skeptical. The tavern was where the rigid social structures of the day softened just enough to allow for the exchange of ideas and the venting of pressures. These spaces completed the daily cycle of the city, balancing the intense labor and the cold abstraction of the market with controlled social exchange. They were the original social networks, ensuring that every citizen, from the merchant to the sailor, was plugged into the collective intelligence of the city. 17th century Amsterdam stands as a testament to what happens when humanity decides to organize itself around a system rather than a person. It was a city that was controlled, methodical, and remarkably unsentimental. Its strength didn't lie in the brilliance of a single leader, but in the durability of its records, the efficiency of its coordination, and the clarity of its purpose. From this disciplined framework, the model of the modern global city was born. We are all, in some way, citizens of the system that Amsterdam pioneered. We live in a world of global trade, abstract finance, and bureaucratic governance, a world where information is the most powerful weapon and efficiency is the highest virtue.
Look at the palace, it's amazing.
Now I want to ask you, do you believe that a city can have a soul, or is it always just a machine for living? How much of our modern world do you think was truly coded back in those 17th century counting houses? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this journey through time valuable, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone who loves history as much as you do. Until next time, keep exploring the mechanics of our world.